Welcome to this Sunday edition of Pensare Basketball Live. Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there and to all of you out there who have maybe felt a sense of pessimism around the Toronto Raptors. Scottie Barnes has a message for you, and he has a message which is consistent with the same message that he delivered on rookie night when he was drafted. And he said he wanted to be great. Count how many times he says great in the following clip. All right.
Mid-range moves, a ton of read and reaction off the ball dribble, just trying to read the defenders, making a secondary move if they cut me off. No matter if they're on the side of me, no matter if they're on the front of me, using my bumps, rising up over the top of defenders. A lot of catch and shoot from corners, spot ups from the wing, top of the key, extending my range, and then just working on my pickups off the dribble. A lot of legs, a lot of arms, get these defenders off me, getting stronger. But shots feels amazing. I've been shooting really well lately. Definitely the best I've ever shot. So my shots been really good. Game's feeling great. A lot of motivation right now. A lot of motivation. Just being hurt in that season and watching us and just had a bad year, terrible year for our standards and what we feel like we should be doing and what you guys need to be able to see. That was definitely not our expectations, and we shouldn't ever be in that position no more. So there's a lot of motivation coming into the season. Just super happy. I'm excited. Gotta wait for this NBA Finals over. I know Summer League coming soon, draft coming soon. I'm more motivated than ever to get back on that court, play my heart out, make these playoffs, and try to get it as deep in this playoffs as possible for this next season. Watching these playoffs, the finals, the physicality of the game, it just makes the game look so fun. To just see them playing with so much physicality out there. They're not calling those cheap fouls, letting them boys play, be more aggressive. I think that's what us fans and us people of the game, we like to see. We don't want to see people going to the free throw line 20 times, 15 times. We want to see a physical game where defense looks great, and it's just enjoyable to see from a fan perspective of the game. That's just a beautiful thing to see. So, if they continue that into next season, it's gonna be great. We got some things to work on as a team, just to implement that into the game and how we gonna be play next year. So it's gonna be great. I'm happy to see that. It's gonna be great.
Great, great, great. Same guy on draft night. He said, I wanted to be great 25 times. Same guy during his draft interview with the Toronto Raptors, won Masai Ujiri over, talking about greatness and how he wanted to be great. I think the quote was Masai Ujiri said 45 times in that draft interview, he said the word great. Greatness is a habit. Greatness is a standard. It comes down to that, really, that you will never exceed the standards that you set for yourself. The Toronto Raptors as a franchise have gone through a period of time, some of you were around, in the late 2000s, where the franchise was frankly a joke. Now, some of you, some people out there are like, hey, let's just go back to being a joke for a couple of years. Let's tank for Cooper Flagg. Well, ask the Detroit Pistons how tanking is working out for them. It's not fun. It takes a lot of time to get out of those losing habits, and you don't lose when you have a player like this on your team. I'm trying to tell y'all for years, the Toronto Raptors are never going to enter a season with Scottie Barnes in tow, right? If everyone's healthy, aiming to lose. So let's wipe that out of our heads. And let's talk about something productive, which is how can they possibly win? Okay. Now, first, before I start, I want to give a little bit of shout out. Okay. Number one, shout out to the channel member who made this possible. I've got a podcast arm. It's pretty cool, right? And yesterday, I was having a really, really shit day. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was having a really crappy day. Okay. A lot of reasons. Laundry machine ate $40. That worked out later. Um, and then I saw an Amazon shipment at my door, and I was like, I wonder what that is. Yo, thank you so much for this. It's a Raptors championship banner. That's so cool, man. It's amazing. That's so cool. And there was something else as well, um, which is pretty cool. It is a 3D lamp that is going to go in the back. I have no idea how I'm going to hook it up right now, but it basically looks like this. And it's a Toronto Raptors 3D lamp. The best way to explain to y'all how it's going to look is by showing you the picture of it. Looks a little something like that. So thank you all the way from Australia to Medved for doing this. That's going to be really cool. So instead of having books in the back, I'm going to be able to have this in the back when I figure out how to hook it up, because it hooks up with a USB. So we got to figure that out. But that is super cool. Our little studio place is going to be lit really soon. Thank you to everyone who has contributed via the Amazon wish list stuff. It's been really nice. And by the way, that whole thing that had me bummed out about the Coinmatic machine, oh shit, instead of the company's name, whoops, the laundry machine. It's basically our building installed new laundry machines. We don't have in-suite laundry because building's old, whatever, they want to save on water. So we still have those apartment building style laundry machines. And so I went downstairs to use the new laundry machines, and they asked for you to load up your card, and I put $20, and I put another $20, and it ate my $40. I was about to break this machine. I was so pissed off. Called the company. They issue a code for you to get the money back. I put in the code. It gave me twice my money back. Moral conundrum. I decided to keep the money. Whoops, bit of corruption there. So the $40 thing was kind of short-lived. Turned into $80 laundry money and two very, very cool things for the studio. So appreciate that. Thank you so much, Medved, and thank you for doing this. It's very cool. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about something that is productive today. I went to my friend's birthday party. It was like a 2-hour commute yesterday, and while I was doing that, I was writing up a video for Pensare Basketball, right? And it's basically a draft video about zigging while the rest of the league zags, and that should come out in the next 2 days. Y'all gonna get an actual Pensare Basketball video as opposed to a live from me about that. But what I want to talk about today is the realistic pathway forward towards the Raptors being good. I have spent pretty much the last 3 months making it very clear that I expect the Raptors to be much better than people think they're going to be next year. But I want to talk about how they can get even better. I want to talk about little margin moves that they can make potentially to become better. And I also want to talk about one of those options being sort of counterintuitive. So the gist of the video was talking about what a first round pick usually is worth in terms of dollar value, right? So what is a typical first overall pick worth? What's it worth in a year when you have a Victor Wembanyama? What is it worth? Mason Vestal saying you would charge them interest on your money. Bro, I never heard of an interest rate going 100% interest rate on 25 minutes of inconvenience, but I appreciate the support. Okay. Long and short is that I've lost my train of thought. Somebody help me. Somebody help me get it back. Typically, first round picks are not sold, right? Late firsts are often sold by very, very cap conscious teams. A long time ago, there was an entire thing where Kyle Korver once got traded for a photocopier or a copying machine or something like that, but those days are gone. Typically, teams will not trade very late firsts. They are valuable assets. And as the CBA goes more in the direction that it is, these first round picks become even more valuable. The question is, how valuable is a first round pick? Like, for instance, if you were to straight up, I mean, this will never happen, but if you were to straight up go to the Hawks and say, this much, what do you want for the first overall pick? Money wise, what do you want? Could you pay the Hawks enough money. Well, cap would allow you not to pay enough. So you have to aggregate between future assets, young players, salaries, taking back bad salaries. You need to give them back a certain amount of value. So what is the value that you would have to have given the Spurs last year for Victor Wembanyama? It's a stupid question because there's no amount of value. The value was higher than the value of entire teams, right? You would have had to give them like $300 million of value for Victor Wembanyama last year. So if you consider that as a percentage or a multiple of Victor Wembanyama's annual average on salary, which is 13 million, you could assume that it was like 100 times his salary annual average would be the value of that first overall pick. But in an average year, when it's like someone like Paolo Banchero or Markel Fultz, maybe it's only 5 times, right? So that means you'd have to give him about $70 million worth of value, which is typically why you don't see first overall picks outright traded. But what about in a really weak draft like this one or in 2013? Could you say it's 2 times? Could you say it's 3 times? Okay, well, 3 times 13 million is 39 million of value. That's not that hard to put together. 39 million of value. Now, how do you assess 39 million of value? Is Scottie Barnes worth 39 million? Sure he is. Absolutely. Scottie Barnes right now, 100%. He's worth more than that. What would a realistic trade for the first overall pick for Atlanta look like? Well, there's a couple factors you have to also account for. Typically, teams that hold the first overall pick are really bad. The Atlanta Hawks are not really bad. Also, the Houston Rockets, they also hold the third overall pick. They are not that bad either. Does this present to you an interesting opportunity to really, really trade up for one of these picks, right? And could that actually make you better? Well, here's the thing. While there is a devaluation at the very top of the draft, there is somewhat of a fair valuation towards the bottom of the draft. And the Raptors hold two very fairly valued picks. And what I'm trying to say is, in an average year, if the multiple of what the pick is worth relative to the annual average value is 5, then the top of this draft is at 2.5 and the bottom of this draft is still at 5, which means that if you're the Spurs, to give you a great example, to not get all lost in the math of it, to give you an example, in a typical year, you would not be able to trade 4 and 8 to get 1. It just wouldn't happen. Last year, you couldn't have traded 4 and 8 to get 1. You couldn't have traded 4 and 8 to go up and get number 1 the year they had Paolo because it was seen as a top 3 draft. So right now, it's the inverse. The Atlanta Hawks can never get 4 and 8 for number 1. The number 1 is not that valuable. So is this a time when the Toronto Raptors say, these picks at the very top are devalued. Let's zig while everyone else is zagging. Do you go out and, make a line share offer to the Houston Rockets and say, I don't know, we'll give you 19, we'll give you 31, these two very valuable picks, and we'll give you Indiana. We'll take back Jock Londale. You can take Bruce Brown. And now we get a top 3 pick. Why would you do that? You have to see something that the rest of the league doesn't. It's the same thing. The Raptors this offseason are going to have to zig while other people zag quite a few times. They're going to have to do it in free agency. They're going to have to do it in trades. They're going to have to do it with development, right? They're going to have to accelerate some of these young guys' development. If what Scottie Barnes wants to happen, which is winning, right? E-Trick saying Barnes don't want to tank. I completely agree with that, right? I completely agree with that. Scottie does not want to tank, but also he is kind of echoing the same sentiment that Darko Rajakovic has echoed, the same sentiment that Masai Ujiri has echoed. I don't know where these Toronto podcasters and these Toronto Raptors channels got this notion that the Raptors want to be bad next year. I'll tell you where I think it's from. It's from Darko Rajakovic talking about the 2025 and 2026 draft. But he never said those drafts have great talent at the top 3 and we want that. He just said those are really good drafts. Well, guess what? If you make the playoffs as the 8th seed, you're still going to get a really great player next year at the 15th, 16th, 17th overall pick, right? You would. Mr. Z saying, as a Spurs fan, I'm good with tanking next year. It's building a better team. Here's the thing, though. When you get a Victor Wembanyama or you get a Scottie Barnes, dude, you don't tank. I don't know where this idea comes from. You start building a winner. Once you get this guy, you start going up. You don't just keep getting bad, right? Like it's very selective tanking, right? Like you how to explain this? You need to start implementing winning habits for a million reasons. There's like quite seriously, you are going to get the best out of your players when you're actually aiming to win, right? You're going to get the best out of them. Um you're going to get a better version of them. You're also going to boost their trade value. If they're seen as winners, you're going to get them valuable reps and experience. I mean, look at what the Dallas Mavericks are going through right now, right? Now, fine, they got Derek Lively last year. No one's complaining. That was a very, very, very good thing. But imagine they hadn't gotten Derek Lively. Let's just say they had drafted Jet Howard instead because those guys were picked pretty close. Now are we saying, whoa, it's really great. You wasted a year of a Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You never know. Once you get to the playoffs, you don't know. Somebody gets injured, you can have a hot shooting streak. Like, why are we so relegated? What is this loser ass mentality of like, oh no, we can never? Are you telling me next year, who do you expect to be the number two overall team? Let's just say the Raptors aim for 7 or 6, right? Let's say number two team is Philly, Cleveland, or Orlando, or Indiana. You telling me you can't imagine the Raptors pulling up to a game 7 with that team, with Scottie Barnes the way he is? You're telling me that you're expecting a team full of Scottie, RJ, Emmanuel Quickley to be completely hopeless in that series? This is not the Charlotte Hornets. This is not the Washington Wizards. You know what I mean? Like, I understand tanking when you're sunk. I understand, okay, game 45, game 50, you're 20 games under 500. There's no chance, no hope. Okay, lose as much as you can. Now we're good. I understand that. But this playing for what mentality that, Masai Ujiri's often been quoted about, playing for very, very important thing. One of my biggest gripes of last season was how not seriously the Toronto Raptors took the in-season tournament. Yeah, you can clown it. You can say they didn't have a chance or whatever, but dude, the more high leverage moments you get this team, the more you're going to speed this up, the more you're going to benefit these players for when they actually are playing meaningful games down the stretch. Okay. Um, SP, odds of pulling a Thunder and getting the number one seed. No one is saying the Toronto Raptors are going to get number one seed. What I'm saying is you come into training camp, you approach this offseason, you approach the draft, you approach free agency, you approach the trade market, you approach resigning your own free agents, you approach training, you approach summer league, every single thing in the offseason, including training camp, including the first, 2 months of the season, must be approached with this idea of trying to get as close to winning a championship as humanly possible. Now, at some point, the reality will set in. I'm sure that championships are out the door next year. You're not winning one, but try to get close. Do something. I don't think this team is as hopeless as people think it is. And I don't think that the only place in the draft that you can find talent, you look at the cost benefit of high picks versus low picks, you really have to examine the full magnitude of it. Okay. Like, look at Emmanuel quickly, 25th overall pick. Let me give you an example. Now we can agree that 19 and 31 are pretty far apart in terms of picks, right? So it's like they're separated by 13 picks. Would you believe me if I told you that the average 31st overall pick outperforms the average 19th overall pick? What does that tell you for the draft? Right? What the hell does that tell you for the draft? Right? What if I told you the average 15th overall pick outperforms the average ninth overall pick? I'm pretty sure that's even true. Look, what I'm trying to tell you is there will be a ton of talent in next year's draft. I've already started scouting 2025, 2026. There's a ton of talent. What I would suggest the Raptors do right now is, because everyone thinks they're about to be bad. Now, this is going to be very controversial. Don't boo me. Don't dislike this video. I would actually consider trading some future picks. Uh-oh. Yeah, he just went there. I would consider doing that. I would consider trading a 2026, 2028 type of, top 3 protected, top 10 protected type of pick. I understand everyone's going to say, but we were just there. No, this is a totally different situation. You are on the ascent. You are not on the descent this time. You're not building around Siakam. You're building around Scottie. It's a completely different thing. ESPN needs IKD. You're saying no, sir. What I would replace those picks with is other teams' picks. I would choose to bet on yourself and bet against somebody else. remove the pick from your vision, provide a bit of a safe floor, right? So you say top 8 protected 2026, okay? You scout 2026, you're like, "Okay, we're willing to move off of a 2026 top 8 protected," okay? Now, right now, teams think you're gonna be bad. Teams don't maybe buy Scottie Barnes, they haven't seen you make the playoffs in a while, so they're like, "Hey, this is a team that could be really bad." You have to leverage that because your pick is actually valuable. Once you start making the playoffs, your future picks become less valuable, you have to give up more of them. So, once again, zig while other people zag. Other people are devaluing your future assets. Sorry, other teams are licking their chops to get your future picks. So go and give them your future picks and then zag. Zig, zag. That's how it works, right? The reason that the Raptors have been infamous for getting so little for their future picks is because they're always so good, right? Teams aren't willing to give up a lot because they expect you to be good. Right now, teams expect you to be bad. No one's picking the Raptors to be in the playoffs next year. Nobody. Not one credible analyst that I know would pick this team as a top 8 team next year. Great. Use that. Shit, trade. Okay, here's an example. I'll give you an example. I would trade 2026 unpro no, 2026 15 top 8 protected, okay? 2026 for a team that I expect to be bad next year's top 3 protected. Would someone do that? Or the same pick, like, let's just move up, right? Or shit, like, let's trade 19 this year for a team next year's, that you expect to finish, like, middle of the pack. You know what I mean? Like, you have that Indiana pick as top 3 protected. What if Indiana falls apart? Okay, fine. I don't expect Indiana to fall apart, but maybe I expect Houston to fall apart or something like that. So I would try to gather other teams' picks. If you notice, the team that is currently representing the East in the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals, they did not tank for Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. Fair warning, they did not. They did what the Raptors refused to do. Danny Ainge did what the Raptors refused to do. They traded away franchise legends Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to a team that they knew was going to be a dumpster fire, or they suspected would be a dumpster fire. They traded aging assets. Now, the Raptors have done something kind of similar with Pascal Siakam, right? Unfortunately for them, the Indiana Pacers have Jarris Walker and Andrew Nemhard on the rise, so it doesn't matter that Pascal Siakam's going to decline in 4 years. My point is, once you start trading against a team's long-term management strategy, I think you end up with incredible things. An example would be also the Detroit Pistons in 2003. They got the number 2 overall pick, Darko Milicic, and they got to add that pick to an incredible team. Now, they fucked up the pick, notwithstanding. Do you know what they traded for that pick? I think it was Otis Thorpe. And if you're saying who, that's exactly the point. So what I would do right now is I would zig while everyone expects me to zag. People want me to tank. Here's my 2025, lottery protected. Go take it. But you have to give me actual value for that. No more Jakob Pertles and fucking, Thaddeus Youngs. Okay. 2020, I will give you 2025 right now. I'll give you 2025 lottery protected. You give me Dyson Daniels. Are we good? You give me 2026 lottery protected. You give me Jarris Walker. Are we good? That's what I mean. Accelerate it that way. SP saying Otis Thorpe in 1997. Facts. I believe it was it 97 or 98? My point is, you become good through going against the grain. You do, like, here's the thing. I have always appreciated the Toronto Raptors for their ability to not give a shit about things that should not be given a shit about. Okay. A lot of teams out there, they draft players because it's the popular choice, it's the consensus pick, whatever, right? Hey, there's a super chat here. Nadeem with a super chat, really appreciate it. Here's how you can quote that. A successful season for the Raptors means building great habits and reps for our core players. Can I just go full on Masai Ujiri and just disagree with that and just say a successful season means winning? We're gonna win in Toronto. We gotta win, winning. Yo, I hate losing teams. I hate it. I hate it. I hate how the last 20 games ended up. I was for it. It was hopeless. Fine. You are completely decimated. You have depth issues, Jonte Porter, whatever. That whole thing happened. I get it. But yo, you have real lottery talent on this team that is close to or approaching their prime years. Okay. You have Scottie Barnes. You have Grady Dick. Look, if you fucked up on Grady Dick with the pick last year, the jury's still out on that. I don't know. But I think this guy could be a serviceable role player next year. Okay, that's great. How many teams out there have 10? How many teams out there can go 9 deep? Because I think the Raptors can. If they just bring back their guys and add one half decent player, they can go 9 deep. There aren't a lot of teams out there that really can go 9 to 10 deep. There are a lot of teams that are very shallow after player 7. Case in point, I think the Phoenix Suns don't have a 7th good player. Josh Okogie, maybe. That's 7. Like, okay. So my point is accelerate the rebuild. I understand that this team is quite depleted. They have a lot of things that they need. They need point of attack defense. They need a backup center. They need a backup point guard. Well, guess what? You have picks. You have picks galore for the future. You have very valuable picks in this year's draft. Okay, here's a question for y'all. Would you trade? Okay, here, let me give you an example. Let me give you a mock trade. Would you trade number 19 and 2026 lottery protected first overall pick to the Houston Rockets for pick number 3 right now? Would you do it? Let me know in the chat. Would you do it? I wish I could run a poll right now, but I'm not comfortable doing that on my girlfriend's laptop here. But would you do it? I got to tell you, I would think about it real hard, like really hard right now. Of course not. E-Trick saying yes. I would offer swaps and don't worry about being bad. Well, that's exactly it. I think that deal could probably get it done, right? At which point, if Alex Sarr or Zachary Risachet are really high on your list, or if Stephon Castle, if you can imagine 3 players in this draft, and again, it's the immediacy of the moment. The sooner you get them in your system, the better it is. If you get a guy in 2026, that guy's been outside your system. Now you got to develop him. Now you got to continue that whole thing. Now, again, if your championship window, and we can agree or disagree on this, I really don't care, nor do I know what you think the championship window is. But if you want to aim for a 2026 opening for your championship window, and you want to aim for a closing on that window to be 2030, 2032, something like that. So let's just say in a hypothetical world, you want to compete. You want to compete for championships 2026 to 2032. Okay. It helps you to bring in a Dyson Daniels more than it helps you to bring in a rookie right now, doesn't it? He's already had 2 years, right? It helps you to bring in a Ben Mathurin or a Shaden Sharp or someone like that. Look, the Raptors are not a crappy franchise. A lot of crappy franchises out there, they're trying to sell ticket sales to these players. It's unfortunate, but it's true. High lottery picks are usually this marketable because there is a significant amount of hype from the prep circuit, from the AAU circuit, from college basketball, whatever. There's the great unknown and whatever. There's the dreaded P word, potential, right? There's none of that in this year's draft, right? There isn't that hype train. There is no this guy's going to come in and change my franchise. So go buy, go buy season tickets. There isn't that, right? And you have a disproportionate number of teams at the top of this draft who have lottery picks that have no intention of wanting to be bad next year. And in the case of Atlanta, they can't even be bad next year because they don't even own their pick. So I'm saying you have an opportunity to zig while other people zag. Everyone is saying the top of this draft is irrelevant, that it's not important. You think I give a shit what Sam Vecini says about the draft? I do not. Okay. No offense. If everyone is saying it, what are the chances it's actually true? Look, I'll say something that I guarantee is true. There's an all-star in this draft. There is an all-star in this draft. And you are more likely to find him at pick 3 than at pick 19. True or not? True. Okay. Most teams do not know how to scout. Most teams are really blind when they're talking about scouting. I have listened to so many freaking scouts, general managers talk draft, and they're just repeating the same stupid ass points. It's so hard to scout properly. It's so hard, okay? I'm just being real about it. There are very few people that I trust in this business at all when they're speaking about it that are not just regurgitating absolute bullshit when it comes to scouting. You talk about a guy like Deron Holmes, or you talk about a guy like Eves Misi, like, oh yeah, well, this situation that they had at Dayton or Baylor is going to be exactly what they're going to do for us. Or, you hypothesize that they're going to be so much more than what they were. And these are all guesses. And unless you are really like looking into a crystal ball, you really can't tell. But what I can tell you is that the few people in this world who really do understand scouting, um, they understand that it is way more art than science, right? You really have to get the full depth. You have to get the full picture of the prospect. You have to understand what makes them tick. You have to understand their athletic limitations. You have to understand the context they were in. You have to do the background check. You have to understand how they respond to adversity, how they respond to temptations, who they are as teammates, as people. You have to understand, how they fit in with what you're trying to do and what role you'll have for them. These things are hard, but what I will say is that the Raptors are better than the average team at drafting. And so, do I trust the Raptors with a top 3 pick in this draft to find an all-star? Yes. Do I believe that the Raptors will find an all-star at 19? No. So therein lies the trade-off there. That's why I would trade up. I would trade up. 100% I would trade up. I would yeah, I would. So that's sort of the first point, is just zigging while other people zag. The second thing is the wait and see approach, right? The Toronto Raptors don't have to make a move right now. You could wait and see, right? So you can get to training camp and you can see if this Scottie Barnes, this version of Scottie that we're seeing in this interview, that he's very confident. Obviously I've had a couple conversations, 3, 4 conversations on this channel with his trainer, Brian Macon, and everything was geared towards making him this really great all-star player going into year 4. And so this has always been the plan. I mean, year 2 was a little bit of a hiccup, but he's on track right now. They envision him to be a top 15 player next year, just an FYI, just to let that, out of the bag here. The Raptors internally expect Scottie Barnes to take that big leap next year. Darko Rajakovic compared him to Nikola Jokic last year. Let me just clarify this. He didn't compare Scottie Barnes after he became an all-star to Nikola Jokic. He compared him to an all-star. He compared him to the greatest player in the league when he was coming off a letdown second year. While, people were saying trade him for Damian Lillard. Internally, this team, this brain trust has so much belief in Scottie. Frankly, you would be insane to think that they could have that belief in him and have the belief that they have in Emmanuel Quickley and Grady Dick and all the players that they have, and also come out next year and expect that those players that you have so much belief in, that you should lose. That's crazy. Um, Steve Stevens saying, "Is Bronny even an NBA caliber talent? Daddy can only get him so far." I sort of resent the idea that Daddy has gotten him so far, just because, a lot of people find him to be very popular. I mean, he's worked for everything he's got. Well, I don't want to say everything, but he's worked very, very hard at his craft, and I do think he's an NBA athlete. I really wouldn't mind the Raptors taking a flyer on him as an undrafted player, but at 31, it would be criminally insane to draft him. There are definitely 31 prospects that are better than Bronny James. But defensively, he's very interesting. And as a playmaker, he's very interesting. Just scoring wise, I'm not really sure how he fits into the modern NBA. And if I had to bet, how long his career will be, my guess would be 3 years. But he's a good player. It's just he's not a surefire NBA player. Anyways, he's very marketable though, so expect some team to capitalize on that. I think that's SP. What is Bronny's best skill set? Point of attack defense. I think he's a very smart player, and he is a very pesky on ball defender. So yeah, I mean, I could see him trying to carve out a role like a Patrick Beverly or a Davion Mitchell type, right? But the jump shot is very far away. Um, Sure. Would you trade RJ with the number 19 pick for the number 4 pick? Um, I really don't like the concept of trading RJ Barrett. I think he is a pretty good player. Um, no. No, I don't think I would. I mean, okay, the only reason I would ever do that trade is if I had a really, really, really good notion that I was going to get if I was going to use the money that I was saving on RJ. So basically, if I traded 19 with RJ for number 4, which I guess it would make some sense, um, then I would have to hope that Isaiah Hartenstein and OG Anunoby or some combination OG and Nick Claxton, something like that. I was going to get those guys in free agency. I had to know that I was going to get that. I don't like the concept of trading RJ Barrett because I do think that Scotty and RJ can complement each other pretty well. I do believe that RJ will become a better defender next year. And again, once again, a lot of defensive analytics come down to intent, right? You don't install a defense last year, you're trying to get development, et cetera, et cetera. Look, I'm seeing what Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla. I've been watching the Celtics very intently for some time. If those of you who follow me pretty closely know that I'm a pretty big Jason Tatum fan, right? Despite the fact that I have picked against the Celtics in the finals, I really admire Jason Tatum. And part of it is because I have seen the growth in him from year 1 to year 6. And a lot of that comes down to teaching, right? I don't think necessarily that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are that far away as prospects. Like, if I could just, bring them back to 2017, I don't think they're that far away from Scotty and RJ. I really don't. I really don't think so. I think there's a lot of similarities between these two, right? It's just different. But I mean, why is it different? Is a number 3 pick and a number 3 pick versus a number 3 pick and a number 4 pick. Really highly touted guys. Scotty and RJ might have been way, way more actually famous as youth prospects than Tatum and Brown were. So why are we so quick? Again, I think, and again, this is not me trying to be controversial or be mean, but I think a lot of people lack vision. I do believe that a lot of people simply they're like, show me and then I'll believe you. Right. It's not one of those things where they can imagine something working out. Expectations breed habits. Okay. If you come into a season expecting to lose and your team gets wind of the fact that your roster moves have been with this specific, thing to lose, you will in fact bring upon losing habits, losing energy, losing all that stuff. Winning has to be important. It has to be. You must, and if you must lose, you must manage to lose in a winning way. You know, the Raptors last year, I have credited Darko Rajakovic till I was blue in the face. They managed to lose in a winning way, right? They handicapped themselves. They played without a center. But they still tried to compete, man. Every night they tried to compete. There were like 6 or 7 stinkers that got blown out and everyone made a big deal out of it. But man, they moved the ball the right way. They built habits. They developed young players. They developed basketball IQ, which is such a key thing for young players. Emmanuel quickly got way better. Agree or disagree? Way better. And he's entered the offseason with like a completely renewed focus. If you've been following Emmanuel quickly on social media, you know this guy is just putting in work, work, work. You got hungry guys. You want to take that hunger away? You really want to take that hunger away from these young players? How much better do you think okay, so here's a legit question for all the tanker people. How much better a player? Okay, well, put it this way. Okay. Let me put it this way. So this morning, I got into I bet my girlfriend we were listening to this video, and it was the most famous, most notable songs from 1950 to 2022. And I told her, I bet you can't get 40 of them, that you can't name. And she lost that bet by a lot. So I'm going to bet you something. How much would you bet that the number 9 pick in 2025 is going to be a better player long term than Emmanuel Quickly? Forget short term, because definitely he's not going to be a better player short term. I'm saying, would you bet that the number 9 pick, which is a very realistic possibility that you end up with number 9 next year if you tank, or number 7, number 8, whatever, would you bet that Emmanuel Quickly is better than the number 8 pick in next year's draft? Long term career. Would you bet that? Just curious. Let's see here. So you think that the number 9 pick will be better than Emmanuel Quickly? I don't understand. Did I phrase that stupid? My bad. Nah, I can't bet that bad. Okay. Would you bet that the number 10 pick will have a better career than RJ Barrett? The number 10 pick, 2025, you don't know who it is, but just boom, it's a stock. You will sell your RJ Barrett career stock, career value. This is a guy who put up positive box plus minus for the Raptors, shot 60% true shooting, carried the offense some nights, has started for years from rookie. He has been a playoff player. Would you bet that the number 10 pick next year is going to have a better career than RJ Barrett? Now, I'm willing to bet that Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey are going to have better careers than RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly. There's no way to guarantee those guys. There's no way. Just put it out of your head. Forget lottery tickets. One of the things that frustrated me beyond belief when I was living in government housing as a kid was the number of times I would see people spend their welfare money on lottery tickets and scratchy tickets. It's an impoverished way of thinking about life is everything up to hope and chance, okay? Yes, I do believe that Cooper Flagg is the type of player that you can get, and that if you got him, it would change your franchise trajectory, but not right away. Cooper Flagg's not winning championships in 2025, 2026, 2027. Maybe he's ready to be a major contributor on a championship in 2028. At which point, great. Would you wanna sacrifice an entire season for a 1 in probably 75 shot of getting a guy? I don't. I'm sorry. Time is valuable. It is extremely valuable. Honestly, Rob, I think Emmanuel has a little more potential Kyle Lowry if you give him time. Damn. I don't think that's true, but I like Emmanuel Quickly a lot. How old is IQ? 26? No, Emmanuel Quickly is 24, my friend. He's 24 years old. Or is he 24 or 25? Hold on, I gotta check this. I'm pretty sure he's 24. Emmanuel Quickly is 24 years old. He will turn 25 tomorrow. Damn. That's hilarious. And it was just RJ Barrett's 24th birthday a couple of days ago. So happy belated birthday to RJ Barrett. Emerald saying Nemhard is better than Quickly. Um, I don't know about that, but I could see why you think that. 2026 lottery protector for Denny Avdia. I'm a little behind the stream, by the way. That's interesting. I wouldn't trade for Avdia partially because of the fit with Scottie and his non-shooter status, but I really like the idea of Denny Avdia being on my team somehow, if just had a little bit more shooting somewhere. Um, IQ could be a fringe all-star kind of guy. I really think that. I think when the Raptors drafted him, I thought, 2, 3-time all-star. That's what I see. Okay, so you have a 24-year-old turning 25 tomorrow, granted, who could be a 2 to 3-time all-star. You have, an RJ Barrett who I think could also be an all-star someday. I really do think that. Like I have been accused of being very, very low on RJ. I understand that. That's because his limitations are so severe. But yo, I saw this guy get better at all the things I thought he was really bad at last year. I have to give him credit for that. I can't be a hater, right? I thought he was a pretty poor passer. Even going back to high school, I thought he missed some very, very obvious reads, but sometimes he would miss like the advanced reads. I didn't see advanced playmaking out of him. And I was like, you're gonna have the ball 27, 28%. I thought he was very ball dominant. He was less ball dominant with the Raptors. He moved off the ball. I thought he was an inconsistent, streaky shooter. I saw him become a better shooter with the Raptors. I saw him as a very poor finisher and therefore somewhat of a limited guy as a three-level scorer. And I thought you needed like a real three-level scorer next to Scottie. And he became a better three-level scorer too. There's a very, very solid argument to make. This is going to sound like the stupidest thing I've ever said. That there were moments last year where I could make a case that RJ Barrett was better than Jalen Brown. It might have been like a week or 2 weeks. And I know long term, he's not a better player. I get that. And Jalen Brown is way better as a defender. But if RJ Barrett can dial in defensively, he has Jalen Brown upside. It's not that far off. Jalen Brown is being hyped to hell right now. And he's a 50 plus $1 million player. I'm saying this with all honesty. I'm not hyping it up. I'm not trying to be crazy. RJ Barrett can be 85% Jalen Brown. He can be like poor man's Jalen Brown. It's not bad for $27 million. Um, Hey, Jonathan Convoy, what's up, man? Hope everyone is having a great day, Rob. Great to see your face again. It's been a while with schoolwork and some family stuff going on. All is well. Sending blessings to you. Thank you. Appreciate that, man. Um, I hope all is well. Family stuff going on does not sound great, but I hope things are turning out well for you. E-Tricks. Could the Raptors overpay for IQ because other teams want him to? Sure. But I am hoping that it is under 30 million. But I mean, you don't have a lot of bad contracts elsewhere on your roster, so hopefully, yeah. I don't know. Okay. Bears got potential all-star possible. IQ for most improved. Spurs might overpay. The Spurs can overpay. It would suck. That would be hard. Tariq, Raps versus Magic. Do you think the Raptors would win? Um, I think it would be close. I don't necessarily I can't say the Raptors would win, but I think it would be close. I think the Magic are a really good defensive team, and I think Jalen Suggs is like really next level type of defender. Um, they have a lot of penetration. They have really big wings. Jonathan Isaac and uh, I think Jonathan Isaac plus Franz Wagner is a really, really, really good recipe to slow down Scottie Barnes. So I think the Raptors just have a really tough matchup against and I think Jalen Suggs would really put Emmanuel Quickly in jail in terms of defensively. So I just think it's a really bad matchup. I think I would like our shot better against Cleveland or against Indiana. I would love our chances against Indiana. Um, I would if if New York loses Isaiah Hartenstein. Um, no, I don't think we'd be competitive against New York. I don't think we'd be competitive against. Okay, so I mean, in fairness, like let's be real. I'm not predicting the Raptors to get out of the first round next year, right? I'm not at all. Okay, at all. I'm not. I'm just saying you have to try. You have to try to get there. That intention has to be there, right? Um, Nice one saying, I have a feeling we're going to draft Bob Carrington. We need creators, uh, Rob, that can get their own shot. I like Bob Carrington a lot. That would be awesome. He would be really interesting. I am working on a mock draft video. It's supposed to come out on Wednesday, so that'll be our mock draft, and it should be relatively final. I didn't want to do like a mock draft every single week. I really don't understand like this pumping out, pumping of content when it comes to draft. I would rather talk about other things. There are far more interesting things to talk about. Truth be told, I have a feeling that this draft is going to be so wild and so weird. Like we're probably going to have somebody that y'all think is a second round pick go top 20, top 15. I think you probably get like a crazy like I don't know. Let me give an example, like a Brian Dunn going 12 or Jonathan Mogbo going 14 or some shit like that. Like it's going to be wild. It's going to be a very interesting draft. I think it could be one of the most entertaining drafts in years. Partially because again, one of the things that drives this is actually the subject of the video that I was trying tomorrow. Was called part of that video is called the 5 laws of the NBA draft, and one of those laws is that um, wow, speaking of laws, and I can't remember the fucking law. Um, Basically, that a disparity in how teams value picks and prospects results in volatility, results in transactions. That if everyone agrees, you will have zero transactions. You need great disagreements. So disagreements equal transactions is basically the law, right? And right now, you can have a ton of disagreements. And that is why I'm actively rooting for the Raptors to disagree. OG's girl is from here and still lives here too. Yes, that is true. How do you know that? That's cool. Um, I don't know. I actually don't know if they're still together. Actually, I don't know that. But yes, he was dating a girl who's from here. IQ is actually pretty good at defense. We didn't really have we didn't have a scheme on the Raptors, but a lot of the value he brings to the Knicks was actually his defense. Agreed. Absolutely agree. Emmanuel Quickley is not like a no defender. Like I think Emmanuel Quickley is a much better defender than Kyrie Irving, and Irving has been very decent the last game, especially I just think like IQ has so here's the thing. I think Manuel quickly can become a lockdown defender. One of his biggest weaknesses as a defender, like he is long, um, black hands, 531 saying shout outs to the new Mike Rob. I'll be on every live this season. Oh, appreciate that, man. It's actually not a new mic. So the mic is the same. It's the boom arm. That's the difference. And I love this placement of the boom arm. So my table is not a typical table. It's like a console table. So it doesn't have a place where I can hook that up. So I was like struggling to figure out like where am I going to hook it up? It worked. It worked. This works. This is great. Um, Raptors will get OG. Scotty might make it happen. As a person who has made not one, not two, but three different videos on this subject, I would be ecstatic if that happened because, like, it would be such an own. Like, it would be such an own. Um, Not happening. Mm. Show us the setup. I'm actually embarrassed right now. Like, it's not. Hold on. Can I? I don't think I even wanna do this. It's like a it's like showing people how sausage is made. I don't okay, here, look at this. So, do y'all see the audio mixer board? It's actually pretty cool. So, as I mentioned before, I can do cool things like cool. So I can do that. Um, yes. 2026 first round pick for Jarris Walker. Indiana can't sign all his players. Okay, interesting that you brought that up. I should bring that up in my video tomorrow. Yes, that is the type of pick that that is the type of trade that I would make. Lottery protected 2026 first round pick for a guy like Jarris Walker. Vegan grass saying Scotty said they talk all the time. Well, let's hope that some of those conversations are D Wade. Hey man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Early experiences shape our current reality, right? A lot of us, who grew up around certain teams might associate the world a little bit differently. I will say this: Scotty grew up at the peak of the Heatles. So Scotty is not unfamiliar with the concept of tampering to bring together, a free agency class. And, he kind of has the ins with OG. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised. I just think like these guys were like super, super tight, man. Like every time I heard Scotty talking about OG, it was like, this is like lifelong friendship type of shit, right? Indiana is stubborn. They didn't add any youth in a trade. Siakam and 3 late first picks. Yeah, I don't really care about that. OG still follows his girl, so I guess they're still together. I mean, I still follow like 4 of my exes. I don't think we're together. I don't think that's the greatest way to judge that. Oh man. RJ, OG, and Scotty as a big three would actually be nuts defensively. I don't think that big three would be very nuts defensively. Um I think it would be Emmanuel Quickly. So what I was saying earlier was Emmanuel Quickly was a very, very good defender for the Knicks, man. I want to tell you, like, he was great. He was much better than Jalen Brunson, much better than Dante DiVincenzo. He was a really good defender. So the issue there is number one, he was the second stringer, so he wasn't going up against starters as much, but he still played a ton of closing lineups for them. Number two, he was playing the two often in those lineups with Jalen Brunson. So I think that's worth noting too. He has a 6'8", 6'9" wingspan to go along with his 6'2". He is extremely good laterally. Like he can move his feet and navigate screens. The thing that hurt him defensively that he is fixing right now is that he was not very strong. And I think that sometimes what I said earlier is true. Most people don't have vision. They only react to things after they're already done, right? When I think about the weaknesses of Emmanuel Quickly's game, I think about the release, which I think was better. I think about stopping short on drives and taking contact in the paint, which may come down to strength. I think about some of his playmaking and stuff, which again could just come down to reps and teaching the game a little bit better and just developing as a person. And I think about defense, like getting schemed out in cross matches and sometimes getting cross match onto a big or a big wing, and maybe he can't hang. So get stronger, get more reps, turn into an all-star. Emmanuel quickly has absolute all-star upside. Like when we look back on the OG for Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett trade years from now, you will consider it one of the best trades the Raptors have ever made. Also, I don't want to see the Magic giving IQ and overpay. Weltman wouldn't do Masai like that. Well, maybe it bodes well for the Toronto Raptors that the two teams that could pose to be the biggest Emmanuel Quickly flight risks or threats to make him a flight risk would be San Antonio and Orlando, and you have pretty good relationships with both front offices, which also means that those two front offices would know that you're not going to let him go. They're not going to let him go. Did you see Scotty say him and OG still talk every day? Yo, I didn't. So I don't listen to Scotty's Twitch streams. Um So I'm curious if anyone in the if you guys do, are there a lot of people in his lives or in his Twitch streams talking about OG coming back? I want to be clear. If OG signs with the New York Knicks, I don't want to hear anybody saying I was wrong. My point of doing this was never to make a prediction. My point of doing this was to be an absolute shit disturber and to raise the idea. You have to raise the idea in order for the idea to catch on. How many times have I seen something I've said reflected into a conversation that is happening on Twitter, which then gets reflected onto something that's being talked about on ESPN? It happens. The world is small enough, especially when we're talking about NBA Twitter and stuff. A video on OG Anunoby coming back to Toronto, all it's doing is introducing the concept that it could happen. Now, when Jake Fisher or someone like that says OG might leave, immediately there's a spin-off of people are like, "Oh, I wonder if Toronto's involved in this," right? And when you start talking about things, you can actually bring them into reality. This is like the secret or the power of, whatever reality or whatever. How many people do you think have asked Scottie Barnes because of my constant videos about OG? How many people do you think have asked Scottie Barnes either privately, his trainer, his friends, his mom, whoever? What do you think about OG coming back? How many more people have asked him, like, do you think OG could come back? Okay. What if Scottie Barnes and OG Anunoby had a conversation about that fucking video and they just said, "Oh, you see that fucking video about you coming back to Toronto? That's wild, huh?" Boom. That's it. All you had to do was introduce the idea. That's why I think ideas are so powerful, because they do have this ability to sort of transform reality. So that was my only goal with those videos. Only goal was to introduce the idea so that A, give Raptor fans some hope. B, introduce this concept of OG coming back to Toronto as not so crazy and potentially look like a genius if it does happen. And number three, make Knicks fans very uncomfortable. Yeah, it is manifesting. Teflon saying, "Are we manifesting OG?" We are manifesting OG. We're gonna manifest this shit to come true. Okay. Knicks would sue the Raptors again. They can sue whoever they want. It's not illegal. I promise you, it's not illegal. The number one thing I really wanted to accomplish was to just to prove to people it's not illegal for them to happen. So I hope you learned that that is not illegal at all. The San Antonio Spurs were a very big threat to steal Jakob Poeltl away from us. We had to overpay Jakob last offseason. So if nothing else, the Knicks will have to overpay OG if OG has other suitors. Also, I'm starting to think Paul George to Philly could really happen here. Etrix, ironically saying Philly want Paul George. Hmm. Tibbs will shorten OG's career if he stays the Knicks. He's already injury prone. Yeah. Khalil Ware is gone way before the Raps are up. Well, thank God if that happens. I don't want anything to do with Khalil Ware. IQ looks jacked in his new gym videos, looks strong. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And that was one of his biggest weaknesses. I think that, with some increased strength, He'll be able to take those bumps in the paint a lot better. He'll be able to guard in the post a little bit better. He'll be able to, just like exert a little like strength is so important for a guard. Look at Fred VanVleet, like Fred VanVleet was hey, Kyle Lowry, like we've had strong guards in the past, right? Um, I really appreciate the fact that we have this development staff that can really pinpoint. I'm sure that in RJ and Emmanuel Quickly's exit strategy, exit interviews with Darko and the staff, they got a real nice blueprint in terms of the things they needed to get better at. Um, yeah, I see Clay and PG coming to the East. Hmm. Jaden saying, "Is it true Ron Holland could drop to 17, 18, 19?" So a couple of guys who could drop, which is why I'm very, very interested in the 11th pick, the 13th pick, and the ninth pick, because I believe both these guys should be higher. Two guys, Ron Holland and Nikola Topic. Now, I'm not sure where I am on Ron Holland right now. There's another player, actually. There's three. So there's three guys that I think could drop. Ron Holland, Nikola Topic, and Cody Williams. So those three guys, right? Now, Williams, a lot of people think, okay, well, um, maybe 12 is the floor for Cody Williams because the OKC connection, drafting brothers, they'll have better insight into him, whatever. He is ahead of his brother at the same age. It's worth noting. I think he has some pretty elite, I think he has some really good finishing skills. He's got the adequate length that the Raptors have liked in the past. Then you look at Ron Holland, and then you start to say to yourself, again, projecting forward away from the G League Ignite situation, which he was in, where he was really the man, maybe a lot more creation responsibilities. He never really had that responsibility before, right? But you think about him running flanking Scottie Barnes on the wing long term, maybe in the Ochai Agbaji, joining Ochai Agbaji off the bench, right? Maybe even becoming a 3-4, a 2-3-4 type of defensive versatility guy. Like there's no athlete in this draft who's quite as fluid and capable as Ron Holland. So that's interesting. And then you have Nikola Topic, who just has had a cascade of bad news around him and bad buzz, right? It already does not really help him that he was, a foreign prospect that, had an up and down season. The jump shot's questionable, defense is questionable. And now on top of that, you got a partially torn ACL and you've got the wingspan measurement, right? So three of those guys, right? Now, consider how many teams draft for need. Maybe there's a team at 15, 16, or 17 that simply doesn't need a wing player. Maybe they really, really want to go big. Maybe they already made a promise, right? The reason that guys can fall is because promises exist, okay? There are promises that teams make, especially in a draft like this. I'm sure there are plenty of promises, and you don't want to break those promises because sometimes you're breaking a promise to an agent, and that agent will not forgive you. So typically, a promise works as follows for those who don't know is you can give a player a particular promise because there's an understanding between you and that player that that's a good situation for them. They're happy with the situation. They're happy with their expected role, contract, etc. They will, in exchange, sort of push away other teams and shut down workouts, right? So the concept would go as follows. Let's say no team expects Nikola Topic to go past 11. But let's say on the day of, the team that has 11, which is Chicago, gets cold feet or somebody else drops or, you know what I mean? Like there's something about his medicals that kind of scares them off and they let him go. Well, maybe team 12 and 14 already made promises to other players. They got to pick them. 13 needs a center. They got to pick him. 15 is another wing. And now you got Ron Holland and Nikola Topic available at 16. And you're really shooting yourself if you're the Toronto Raptors because you could have had pick 16 and so now you just got to wait for one of those guys to fall to 19. It's possible, right? But you're really wishing on a star here. There's also a reason why these guys are falling. Neither one of them are surefire superstars or all stars or whatever. Neither one of them are prototypical top three picks. But I do think Topic will be a lottery pick under normal circumstances in most situations, right? So I'm just trying to say, I think that there will be a player to fall, but I would rather trade up to make sure that I catch them sooner. Now, with Topic, I do think that um, there's something to be said, in my opinion, about wingspan and all that stuff, and how much people really obsess over it. He is a plus size guard for his position. He has shorter legs, so he's laterally a lot closer, in my opinion, to a prototypical point guard. He's not a stopper. He's not a defender. He's never really going to be a defender. I don't know why people would get super hung up on the wingspan stuff. Also, I'm not really sure watching him that I can even imagine how he measured that way. So I'm not like saying that the measurements are wrong. I'm just saying I find it very hard to believe that they're accurate. Um, I don't think wingspan is the determining factor for a point guard or whatever. I think height matters a lot more for a point guard because the ability to see over defenses, I think the quickness should be, thing. So I don't think Nikola Topic or Ron Holland should last past pick 13. But if they're there at 14, I'm suddenly thinking about trading up. And Cody Williams, I think, this could be one of those situations where you have to see him outside of the context that he was in. Um, Mr. Z saying Topic is killer. You got to watch FIBA U18 finals where he was the MVP carrying his team to the win. I have watched it and I thought he was incredible too. I feel like the feel that he has for the game and his IQ for the game cannot be really taught at that. You cannot replicate that in young players. Most players who are his age just simply do not read the game as well he does. He manipulates the deceleration, the handle, the assertiveness, the love for the game and stuff. Like I just think there's so many good things about him. Ron Holland, I have more questions about him. If I had to rank these prospects, I would probably rank Ron last. Um, but the athleticism is the athleticism, and the defensive upside is there. So even if you think Ron Holland is going to become a poor man's Andrew Wiggins, that's solid for a 14th pick, right? Like that's better than Ochai Abaji at the very least, right? I don't know. There might just be certain players that, they don't interview well and teams just get a very bearish outlook on them. I can tell you just from hearing what people are saying inside draft circles that Ron Holland has maybe not interviewed the best, and maybe that is pulling some people away from him. But man, people are different, people grow. Like you're judging kids who are 18, 19 years old as if they're finished products and they're not. And that's why I trust Masai Ujiri so much in these moments because I do believe that he sees beyond what you are. He sees into the it sees into the pits of your soul in terms of who you're going to be. Like yesterday I was at a party for my friend's birthday. It was 30 her 35th 36th birthday, 36th birthday. So we were there. Shit, it was her 35th birthday, my bad, and got to meet up with a lot of people I went to university with, and we were just chilling and chatting about the old days and whatever, and we were talking about, like, who we were as people at 21, 22, 23. And man, you know what I mean? Like my friend Bernardo, he said to me, he's like, "Rob," he's like, "No offense, you're actually younger today than you were back then. You feel younger." Essence. No one could have predicted at 23 when I was, like, all finance oriented that I would ever make films or run a film festival or, you know, like even make shit. I have a teacher, my writer's craft teacher, who at 17 saw me being a writer when I myself was like barely passing my classes. How did she see that in me when I didn't see that in myself? She had vision. She could see past all the, mess that I had created in my own life. She was able to see into the essence of the person and see me for more than what I was in that moment. So I'm just saying, like with young kids, prospects, you say they're not a good jump shooter, they're not a good ball handler. They're a little bit small for their position, right? But what you don't know is what they've overcome. What you don't think about is what they will overcome. You don't know is how hard they're willing to work to overcome some of the limitations that you see in their game. What you don't know is how much they might be swayed or tempted by distractions. What you may not know is how they respond to losing confidence for the first time. What you don't know is how this all-American, top 10 recruit, whatever, will respond to the adversity. But there are several players in this draft that have already shown a tremendous bounce back, right? Carbon Chunk saying the resolution is amazing now. I assume you're talking about the camera resolution. That's nice. That's nice. That is true. It is much better. We have moved on from a 2011 iMac to a 2015 laptop. Don't get too used to this. But eventually on my Amazon wish list is a webcam, a really nice webcam. I hope to get that really soon. So as I said, my target is draft night. Draft night or before, we are going to be elite. We're going to figure this out. Okay. Now I realize, with this championship banner that I got to hang it somewhere. Obviously someone, Medved, took the time to, gift us this, the lamp that I talked about. So we're gonna find a place for all these things. We're gonna make this place nice. We're gonna make it great, and it will become home to, hopefully, in my opinion, hopefully the best Raptors podcast on YouTube and on Spotify soon, and on Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. So we'll figure this out. And also, I'm going to be investing in a Synergy membership. So those of y'all don't know, Synergy. This is not a Synergy promo, but Synergy has like unique data and interesting data sets for players. You'll be able to know how many times a player launched off 2 feet, or how many times they came off a pick and roll. And I think that that would take our analysis to a next level. And I want to make way more videos next year. Like, I'm not saying I won't do lives. I will do lives every post game. There will be a live, and we will have a bump in live. And now that I have gotten my temperament under control, and I'm not losing my mind nearly as often, I'm not saying it's completely solved. If you, God help me, if someone tries to suggest trading Scottie Barnes for Kyle Kuzma or some shit like that, I'm going to lose my mind again. But I do believe that the temperament under control, we have more positive conversations, hopefully a better place for disagreements. That would be great. But yeah, man, I really want to be great. Like Scottie Barnes, right? I want to be great. I want to be great. Um, so yeah, let's be great like Scottie. Etrick saying Scottie should be in Team USA. Yes, sir, he should. What is Team USA doing with their lives that they have not offered him a roster spot right now? I think he is definitely going to be a bigger part of that program's future than Paolo Banchero. Um, no shade to Paolo, but I mean, if I'm Team USA, he's one of the first 7 people I'm calling. He'd be perfect for the international game. He is super selfless. He's a great teammate, energy giver, not an energy taker, super humble, wouldn't mind coming off the bench, pushes in practice. Oh man, I would love that for him. It would be absolutely incredible for him to make Team USA. That'd be great. Alrighty. Point of this video is simple. When various podcasters in the Raptor space try to build up your expectations that the Raptors are tanking for Cooper Flagg because of some innocuous, stupid misquote from Darko Rajakovic about the 2025 and 2026 drafts. I want y'all to yell cap, because it is cap. It's not true. And I do think that it's important that we as fans root for the right stuff, right? It's very disheartening for a player. I try to think about this sometimes, like, um, imagine being in a manual quickly, stepping out with, your girl or whatever, going to a restaurant, and someone says, y'all should tank for Cooper Flagg. Like, that's cold. it when you as an organization tank, what you are doing is you are showing your players, your current players, a lack of faith. It's hard to develop when you do that. It really is, right? You have to come out and you have to show a willingness to win. You have to show a willingness to compete, and that is where winning habits are started. And I find it hilarious, hilarious that there are podcasters and content creators in this Raptor space that believe that they know better than Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster. I mean, my God, the arrogance and the level of arrogance that comes with that is insanity. The Raptors are not going to, and I believe they will be successful in this as well. And also, I'll leave this with one more point. If the Raptors are ahead of schedule, 25 to 30 games into next year, all the value that I said was up there for the future picks, it's gone. It's gone, because now teams are wise and awake to the fact that you're good. So your 2026 pick not only has less value, 2025 pick necessarily has less value, 2028 pick has less value. So trading those picks now when they're at the height of their value for something that you value in exchange for it, like, picks are not magic. They're just an assignment of a player. So trade the pick for a young player that can grow with this core now, when everybody is devaluing your pick. Y'all understand what I'm saying? It just comes down to the math of it. I believe that right now, the value of a 2025 Raptors first round pick, top 3 protected, is like $30 million or $25 million, something like that. So if it's going to, if you're going to have a massive season and no one knows it yet, and that pick's value is going to go from 25 million to 12 million, Well, you might as well cash out at 25 million and get $25 million in return. I mean, this is just good math, right? It's just good. It's good economic sense to offload over bloated assets, which is why it drove me absolutely mental when the Raptors didn't trade Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet when they had a chance. OG Anunoby, even like I love OG, but like even in that case, like you could have traded OG for something when they were overvalued. You trade overvalued assets that don't have a fixture in your team's future, and you try to accumulate undervalued assets that you believe you can rehab. That is how smart teams work. That's why the Raptors got Norman Powell for Gravis Vasquez. Like that's not a trade that any general manager should make twice. You know, that's how the Raptors got Serge Ibaka for, Terrence Ross, right? That's another example. Yes, like Laurie Markkinen. Laurie Markkinen was in the wrong situation in Cleveland. His stock was not super high. He was being put in a position to fail, really, as a third big in a lineup, which is really weird, right? Playing as like almost a fourth, fifth option, considered a bit of a bust, in Chicago, already on his second team. So yeah, his stock was not high. Today, the Utah Jazz won 5 first-round picks for him. Okay, well, who won in this situation? The Bulls? No, they lost. The Cavs? No, they lost. The team that won is Utah. Norm and OG for Vasquez. Was it Norm and OG? Damn, that's even better. Does Edie's playing relationship with RJ and Kelly give him a leg up? No, I do think I do think if the Raptors were really gonna plan on drafting, um I do think if the Raptors were planning on drafting Zach Edey, they would have played this differently. I don't see a world in which that's gonna happen. It was Jakob for Vasquez. It most certainly was not. I don't think so. Sorry. No, it wasn't. Um, what? I need to research this. I'm drawing a blank on where they got that Jakob pick, but I know it was not our pick. We got a first rounder. Was it for Vasquez? No, man. Okay, hold on. I gotta check this out. One sec. This will be interesting. I could be wrong. I'm fully aware that I could be wrong. Gravis Vasquez trade. Okay, hold on. The result of the trade was nightmares are made of for any Bucks fan. While Vasquez's time on the team was short-lived due to injuries, Powell and Anunoby have become major contributors. So it was Powell and Anunoby. So every team's front office had its fair share of misses, but the Milwaukee Bucks trade for Gravis Vasquez back in 2015 looks like the biggest blunders in recent memory. Not only did Milwaukee acquire a player who would go on to play just 23 games for the team, they also gave up microwave scorer Norman Powell and a future first-round pick who eventually would become two-way star OG Anunoby. So it was OG and Norm for thing. Jakob was a result of the New York pick from the Andrea Bargnani for Steve Novak trade. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Glad we sorted that out. All right, guys. Be hopeful. Jeez. Be hopeful. It's look, I will say this. This channel was the bearer of bad news during the height of the Fred and Pascal stuff. It was very critical during the Dennis Schroeder stuff. No matter how many times people have told me that I am critical or that I am bearish or that I'm a Debbie Downer, I do not care. I was not going to change my mind about anything until the situation itself resolved itself. I believe the situation has gotten a lot better. I am very happy with the Toronto Raptors, as I have said 5,000 times over the last 5 months. I'm very happy with the direction the Raptors are going in. I'm not assuming that everything they're going to do from here on out, nor do I think everything they've done over the last 5 months is perfect, but I do like the try. I like the attempt. No one hits 100. But I do believe it's time for the Raptors to get back to taking risks. I know it sounds crazy to say take risks when you just traded away, this first round pick that so many people wanted. But the truth is, you also, by the by, you did trade for 4 picks as well, right? Can we be real about that? In OG and Pascal trades, you did get 4 picks back. The 31st overall pick, from Detroit might as well be a late first rounder. The OKC pick is already gone. The 2026 Pacers pick and the 2024 Pacers pick. Okay, so you did get 4 picks back. So you may have sent one out, and you definitely sent out a mid second rounder to San Antonio because there's a reason why you don't have your second rounder this year. Is also went out in the Jakob Poeltl trade. So you gave up not only pick 8, but also pick 36 in this year's draft for Jakob Poeltl, and you have, 19 and 6. So in a lot of ways, in a really weird way, you almost traded. I mean, this is going to sound really insane, but you almost traded Jakob Poeltl for Pascal Siakam. Does that make you feel better? Oops. We'll see. Um, Here's something to make you feel better. You gave up less for Jakob Poeltl than the Pacers gave up for Pascal Siakam. That doesn't make me feel better at all. At all. No, look, I'm not gonna harp on the past. The Jakob Poeltl trade was a disaster class. We know it. We all know it. We knew it at the time. We called it out. I screamed no as loud as I possibly could. I know it was a stupid trade. I hope, I hope that Masai Ujiri would agree today that it was probably a stupid trade, but it's been done. You can't lick your wounds on the past. It's over. And all we can do moving forward is to make better decisions and not short-sighted decisions. And these are not short-sighted decisions. Trading away a 2026, first rounder, lottery protected when that value is overvalued right now, or even top 10 protected to get a player in your program right now because you have a spot to develop. Um, did you see the Jarris Walker news? No, I did not. What is the Jarris Walker news? RH77, please pray tell. Was he spotted wearing a Toronto Raptors jersey? I will be very, very excited. Um, it's funny Indiana has our second pick this year. Do they? I thought San Antonio did. If the Pacers decide to re-sign Obi Toppin to a long-term deal, rival executives wonder about the potential availability of Jarris Walker. Oh, that's not news. That's bullshit. Yo, Rob, imagine the Raptors within Scottie. I don't understand that. Um, all of these news reports about like rival general managers believe blah blah blah. This is all just like I think one of the things you realize you go through this draft cycle enough times is like 85% of everything you hear, actually probably 98% of everything you hear is absolute bullshit. The Bulls want Zach Edey. Who leaked that? There's only 2 things that I know for sure is that nobody knows what the Raptors and the Thunder are going to do. You can all guess what they're going to do. Some people accurately guess that the Raptors, like last year, I was rooting for us to draft Jordan Hawkins. We ended up drafting Grady Dick. Very similar players, right? So it was possible to, I expected us to draft Scottie Barnes. I was very firm on that. I expected us to draft Christian Koloko. The one time I was wrong, we drafted a guy who was very similar to the guy that I thought we were going to draft, which was Jordan Hawkins last year. So ultimately, you can kind of cue based on the team needs, what the team values, like who they might like. You know what I mean? Like you can base a lot of that. Like whether you realize it or not, Scottie Barnes, Christian Koloko, Precious Achua, and Grady Dick have a ton in common. It's not obvious what they have in common, but they do have a lot in common. If you stack them in the same room, you would understand they have a lot in common. What's realistic we give up for a lottery pick? Well, given the fact that this draft is quote unquote flat, and a lot of people just keep saying it over and over again, I'm not really sure that the 13th overall pick is worth a hell of a lot more than the 19th overall pick, which means you would only have to offer marginal value up. I wonder if 31 plus 19 can get you up to 13. I wonder. And if you're the Toronto Raptors, maybe you don't want to develop 2 rookies. So consolidating those 2 roster spots into a slightly higher paid roster spot is a good thing for you. Maybe you have other plans. Maybe you have someone in undrafted free agency, that you would rather, instead of burning the 31st overall pick, which is a very big value, given that it's going to be the first pick at 4 p.m. the next day. And maybe that comes back to haunt you. Who knows? Maybe 19 and 31 will end up being the better picks. I just don't think draft picks are the only way to get and save more salary getting 19 than 13. Hmm. Castle or Holland would be the dream at 19, Topic if we trade up. I don't understand this at all. Castle, I don't think there's any chance in hell Stephon Castle lasts past pick 7. Um, a player that I have liked a lot during this entire process is Reed Shepherd, a lot. And it's just disappointing as hell because whereas earlier I saw him mocked as late as 10, 11, where I was like, oh my God, the Raptors can get this guy. Not only do we lose our top 6 pick, we also have him rising up the boards where people are like selling themselves on him being number 3. Um, you think Jalen Green is a lost cause? I don't think he's a lost cause at all. I just don't necessarily want him on my team. Vegan Grass, Loco, and Edie are starting in backup centers in 2026. Book it. How much you want to bet that's not going to happen? Um, what is Reed's player comp? That is a good question. I'm not sure. Y'all laugh. I say Fred VanVleet. We got a slightly taller, better shooting version of Fred VanVleet. If we only had one pick at 13, who would you pick? Well, it depends on who's on the board, right? In terms of the guys who realistically could be on the board, I'd probably take Yves Missi, and I know that that's not a very popular thing, and I think um, I am not considered a draft analyst by any means, but I think if I was considered a draft analyst, there's no one in the world that I have seen higher on Yves Missi than me. So if he busts, I will look like the only idiot. But if he's successful, I'll also only be the only genius that saw it. Wizards level without Scottie. Um, an elite for VanVleet. Rob was correct about that comp. Yeah, like I think he's such an interesting defensive playmaker. I think his shooting is so consistent, and I don't like comparing white guys to white guys because I think it's lazy. But he has a little bit of TJ McConnell in him as well. You know, um, it's he's not a necessarily a pure point guard, but I think he can grow into it. You still think Raptors don't trade Jakob for Memphis number 9, Clark and Zaire. Brandon Clark plus Zaire Williams plus number 9 definitely get you Jakob Pertl if you're Memphis. But I don't know why Memphis would do that. That would be crazy overpay. Brandon Clark's a really good basketball player. For real, the Raptors without Scottie would make us the worst team ever. Well, that goes to show you, you know what I mean? Like, again, like people read the record, right? People have a very, very big deficit in imagination when they talk about, how much better a team can get year over year. Partially because, first of all, they assume that team year, teams year to year have a lot to do with each other, and they really don't, right? The Dallas Mavericks last year didn't make the playoffs. The Dallas Mavericks this year are in the finals. The OKC Thunder, did the OKC Thunder make the playoffs last year? No. This year they were the number 1 seed. Minnesota, did they make the second round last year? No. This year everyone is calling them championship favorites. Like, I'm saying a lot can change over the summer. Players get better, especially if you have a young roster. Players can get a lot better. So I'm just saying that, like, it's not insane to say that the Raptors can be a 45 win team next year. They really can be. Like, I would never say it if it wasn't true. I would never say it if it wasn't true. But they can be. They totally can be. What would be realistic we give up for Memphis's pick 9? Um, that's a good question. Memphis pick 9. Um, yeah, that would be a really interesting place where you would have probably your pick of the litter in terms of guys who were dropping. You might even be able to get a Donovan Clingan there if you were interested in getting, a center for the future who can defend at a high level at the paint. Um, who knows, man? Like sometimes on draft night, a team might have a particular player in mind, and if that player is there, they're going to use the pick. But if it's not there, they're not going to use the pick. So with Memphis, it might just be that they're going to go with Donovan Klinger and they're going to trade the pick. And that could be the deal for the Raptors, right? Like, it's the same thing with the Bulls. Like maybe the Bulls have a target. Maybe the Bulls want Topic or Ron Holland. And if those guys are not there at 11, they're moving off the pick. I feel like this is the type of draft where you'll have deals like that. And again, a lot of people say the Raptors always were rumored to trade up. They're always rumored to trade up, and then they never trade up. But again, they usually don't have this much excess draft capital to trade up with. Like you need something to trade in order to trade up. Very often when the Raptors haven't been able to trade, like 2018, they wanted to trade for Shea. 2013, they wanted to trade for Giannis. They didn't have picks in those drafts, so it's harder to make the deal, right? I believe the 2013, if I'm not mistaken, the 2013 pick was that the one we traded away for Kyle Lowry in 2011, 2010. What am I talking about? No, 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 no. Who the fuck did we trade? I'm thinking, what did we trade away so we didn't have our 2013 pick? Now I need to go back and figure this out. 2013 NBA draft. So let me just see here. I apologize. Give me one sec here. So the Raptors did not have a first round pick. Does anyone remember offhand? Do we have a second round pick? Motherfucker. We didn't even have a second round pick that year either. Now I'm really curious. Like what the fuck did we trade? Um does anyone know offhand? Klingon or Edie? Um it was the Steven Adams pick. When did we draft Bruno? We drafted Bruno the next year. Sent it to Houston. They sent it to OKC. So OKC picked 12. Motherfucker, we had Giannis. So what did we trade for? So Houston, that would be the Kyle Lowry trade, right? So Brian Colangelo traded a first round pick for Kyle Lowry when we missed on Steve Nash. Hmm. So in a way, we traded Lowry for Giannis. Damn. Even the greatest trade in Raptors history backfired. Fuck. Okay. Um, interesting. All right, guys. That's it for me. I do appreciate these lives, and thank you to 229 of you for being here. Hopefully, these lives are upbeat and positive. I do believe in zigging while people zag, and while the rest of Raptors Twitter and YouTube is singing the bearish, outlook for next year. I am happy to be the sole or one of the sole people who is at least somewhat credible saying that things are going to be better because I do believe that. I will never, I would never toe a line or a narrative if I didn't believe it to be true. It might not be true. I might be dead wrong, but I can never ever say something that I explicitly believe to be not be true. Like, did I want the Jakob Poeltl trade to work out for the Raptors? Yes, of course I wanted it to work out. Did I want Fred VanVleet to be unselfish? Yes. Did I want, as a Raptor fan, did I want the Dennis Schroeder, signing to work out? Yes, but I just did not believe that those things were going to work out in our favor, and so I had to say it. And right now, I'm on the opposite. So we'll see. I'm hyped for next year, Scotty. I am too. What ranking range do you think the Raptors will be next year realistically? I think they will be in the top 8 in the East. As high as 6, 7, 5, as low as 10 with a chance to play in. That's my range. 5 to 10. 5 to 10 is my range, and I hope for 5. I really hope for 5. Actually, I'm hoping for 2, 3, whatever. Like make it happen, get way better. It's just winning, winning games, right? Like, what do the Raptors lack to win games? Do they have dribble creation, penetration? Yes. They have a good coach? Yes. They have shooting? Yes. They have defense? Yes. They have everything that you require to win. You can argue they don't have a top 15 player. They will have one very soon. You know, if they don't already have one, they will have one. And a motivated, healthy Scotty with another year of development. I mean, honestly, y'all like crazy. Like we had him. Like he was there. He was right on the cusp, top 15, top 20 player in the league. I think Scotty can make an All NBA team next year. It's going to be tough. Is Eric Corey a good coach? Honestly, not sure about that. I'm not sure he's a good coach, but I also don't know him. I don't watch as much 905 as some people, so I will say I'm probably not the right person to answer that question, but I have never felt super inspired watching him or listening to him talk about basketball. So that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, I think Scotty can make it next year for sure. I don't know about All NBA, but I think he'll be a snub for it, and I do think he'll make another All Star team. And if the Raptors are good, right, and maybe if they keep the 65 game minimum, right, and somebody else gets bumped out or whatever. Um, he was a Raptors assistant before the 905. Yes, I know that. Um, but I mean, it's difficult to say what he did as an assistant under Nick Nurse versus seeing him now with the 905 and seeing the development. Like, is it his fault that Marquise Noel got hurt? No. Is it his fault that, Ron Harper got hurt? No. Is it his fault that Grady struggled so much in his G League stint? No. I'm not sure that you can blame anything on a coach exclusively, right? But the Raptors 905 have not been good, and they were a very good team for a while. So, I mean, that's just correlation is not causation, right? This draft will be entertaining. I will have my popcorn. I'm still trying to figure out how to set it up. Like, how do I want to do it? Obviously, I cannot broadcast the draft. I cannot have, you know, I mean, in theory, we could have just Twitter open and we could just rely on you guys to shout it out or whatever. But last year, what we did was we had the draft on in the back, so I could hear it and I could react live to it. We had Leo on, so we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. I was thinking of maybe even like a higher quality type of production of the draft. So, like, basically calling out the picks as they happen, bringing up a video package of every single player, talking about how they fit, et cetera, instead of just sitting there and panicking about what the Raptors are going to do, right? Like, but I think that would require more people. I think that would require a second person to do that, right? Like, I think I would need someone to be able to play the video packages or whatever. I don't know. I'll ask my girlfriend. Maybe she can do it. I don't know. That would be cool. Yeah, man. One of the things that I've learned from podcasting is it's not that hard, right? Like what we're trying to do here is not it's not rocket scientist. It's not rocket science. Having a couple of loaded clips or whatever, having a ticker at the bottom, having somebody who can write that in. Like, for instance, like right now, hold on, I'll show y'all what I mean by that. We're getting a real window into. Oh, I finally figured this out. Oh, I'm so dumb. Forever I've been trying to figure. Do you guys see my name now? So now guests will have names. So now if you call in, your name will show up. I'm such a dummy. Like, I completely did not realize that. Okay. Minimal, classic, bubble. Okay, I can do that. Cool. Okay. So there's that. I can add a logo. Logo. Jeez, it was right there the whole time. So now I can add a logo. So I added the logo. Nice. And I could also add some background music. Not that background music, but some background music. Um, to the intro. Change the brand color. Okay, I could do that. Oh, banners. Look at this. Oh no, that's stupid. No, 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 no. Ticker. Need a ticker. So something like this. You know? So I could do that at the bottom. And if I could have somebody manipulating that, right? Like, I could create a banner. I could have it scroll and hold on. Look at this. Wait, what? No, this. Love it. The production value just went crazy. All right. Okay. All right. I appreciate y'all as always. Thank you so much. I'm in really good mood because last night we had a great night. My friend's birthday. Um, that stuff seems interesting. What software is this? It is a platform called StreamYard. I'm not sponsored by StreamYard. I'm not necessarily supporting StreamYard, but there's a lot of things I want to do. One of the things is affording a. So I talked about affording a Synergy membership, which is like $40 a month, but I also would like to afford the higher quality StreamYard. So this quality of StreamYard, this is not a free version. It's $25 a month, I think US, gives you 720p video. But I think the $50 version gives you 1080p, so it'd be better. Get the better camera, so that'll be solved. Fix the background, that'll be solved. Get a softbox, that'll be solved. I feel so close. I feel so close to like a really polished professional podcast. Like I'm so close, so close. Okay. And if I could just figure out like maybe an intern or somebody who's interested in like doing some of the ticker stuff, like imagine like, okay, so for instance, let me explain what I mean here. So if I was to do this, one sec. Um, so fuck that. If I did this, so oops, no, 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 shit. Okay, so we do this. Let's say, for instance, on the draft, I had somebody to do this, right? Okay. And then if there was like a third pick that happened, I could conceivably, right? I could just do this. And then that person could bring that up. You know what I mean? So then you just get the entire ticker. That'd be interesting. Hmm. This would also be a really great way to break up topics in the show so that people always know what we're doing and what we're talking about. There's a million ways to do this, man. Like, and then being able to like bring up a video package. So like when the player is drafted, for instance, like let's say Zach Edey is drafted, and then we could have like, you know, like instead of this, like we could just have like the video of Zach Edey just going, you know what I mean? And just like who he is. And then we could just offer the commentary like Zach Edey, la la la, this is how he fits in with the Chicago Bulls, et cetera, et cetera. And then when Zach is done, then we can move over to let's just say the so and so is on the clock, and then we can move on to the next pick or whatever. I don't know. It's a lot to navigate. It's a lot of figures and stuff. But if I can get one person to help me with that on draft night, that might be great. So yeah. Alrighty. Enough rambling. I'll talk to y'all later. Bro, gay boys. Can you make videos instead of just streaming on StreamYard? Yeah, I can make videos. What would we need to attach to Jakob to get the Memphis 9 pick? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Maybe 31 in Jakob for number 9. Would that make sense? Why doesn't YouTube Studio have all these things? Makes no sense. I've never really looked at YouTube Studio for streaming, but that would be interesting. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. I'm gonna remove this just so because I'm not a very detail oriented person, and at times I'm pretty sure that I would screw this up. But I am very happy to say that if there's a call-in show, that we will finally be able to see the person's name, especially if they don't have a picture on their screen. So if like Vince called in his name, and then sometimes Vince has these hilarious like names that he writes, like RJ Barrett's son or something like that, and it's funny. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and this is a really fun show. Um, he means using StreamYard to make videos. You can definitely do that. I don't know why you would, but you can. Yeah. All right. Talk to y'all later. And by the way, Nadine, Jonathan, thank you so much for the super chats, man. I really appreciate it. Talk to y'all later. Peace.